Hi guys, and welcome to Boring History. Tonight we step quietly into a medieval winter, and you feel it before you see it. The cold reaches you first, pressing through wool and leather, slipping under doors and along stone floors. You stand in a village just after sunset, the sky already deep and star-heavy, the kind of dark that arrives early and stays a long while. Smoke curls low from chimneys, carrying the smell of damp wood and animal fat. Somewhere a door closes. Somewhere else, a bell marks the hour, not with urgency, but with a calm reminder that the day is finished. This is not the cold you fear, with a thermostat nearby. This is the cold that shapes your habits, your meals, your clothing, and eventually, your sleep. And yes, you probably will not survive this without adapting, which is exactly what medieval people did remarkably well. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you are settling in, feel free to share where you are listening from and what time it is there right now. Now, dim the lights and let yourself step fully into the night. You walk inside a medieval home, and the door shuts with a thick wooden thud that seals out the wind. The space is small, low, and dark. Firelight flickers across rough walls, and shadows stretch lazily, unbothered by electric glare. This house is built to hold heat the way a modern thermos does, with thick stone or timber walls and tiny windows that leak little warmth. A mainstream historical fact often surprises modern listeners here. Medieval houses were intentionally dim and enclosed, not because people loved darkness, but because light and heat were precious and cold was relentless. Glass was rare, shutters were heavy, and winter demanded cooperation between architecture and the human body. You remove your outer layers and already feel heavier, slower, calmer. The cold has a way of doing that. Outside, the night is loud with wind, but inside, the sounds soften into the gentle crackle of embers and the muffled breathing of others sharing the space. This is where the story of medieval sleep begins, not in beds, but in environment. Winter dictates everything. Long nights stretch out like a dark blanket, encouraging rest, not as a luxury, but as a survival strategy. You probably imagine medieval sleep as miserable, shivering, uncomfortable, yet here is the twist that makes historians raise an eyebrow. Many medieval people slept deeply and for long hours during winter. With no artificial lighting to fight the night, the body followed darkness naturally. Melatonin flowed freely, though nobody had a word for it. People simply knew they felt sleepy earlier and slept longer when winter tightened its grip. Historians still argue whether this depth of sleep was healthier than modern patterns, or simply different, shaped by necessity rather than choice. You sit near the fire as it burns lower, because no one feeds it all night. Wood is valuable. Letting the fire die slowly is intentional. As the room cools, your body prepares for rest. Modern sleep science quietly agrees with medieval instinct here. Cooler temperatures encourage deeper sleep, a fact rediscovered centuries later in climate-controlled labs. The medieval household learned it by experience, by generations of winter nights that taught the body when to let go. There is a quirky detail you might enjoy. In some regions, people believed sleeping too close to a roaring fire could steal your strength, drying you out from the inside. They preferred the gentle cold, trusting that too much heat invited illness. You edge away from the hearth instinctively, not knowing the theory, only feeling the comfort of balance. As you prepare for bed, you notice how early everyone settles. There is no sense of missing out. Darkness is not entertainment-free boredom. It is permission. Permission to stop. Outside, work is impossible. Fields are frozen, roads are treacherous. Daylight is short. Winter creates a slower rhythm, and sleep expands to fill it. This is social history, written in breath and posture, not laws or kings. You lie down with the awareness that sleep is communal, seasonal, and expected. Nobody brags about staying up late. Exhaustion is not a badge of honor. Rest is practical wisdom. You hear someone whisper a prayer nearby, another person cough softly, an animal shift its weight on the floor. These sounds are not disruptive. They are grounding, a reminder that you are not alone in the dark. The cold outside presses against the walls, but it does not invade. It holds you, steadies you. Your breathing slows. Your muscles loosen. The night feels long in a reassuring way. Not endless, but generous. You sense that sleep here is not something squeezed between obligations. It is the main event of winter evenings, carefully protected and quietly respected. As your eyes close, you understand that medieval people did not conquer winter. They listened to it, and in doing so, they found a kind of rest that modern life keeps trying to rediscover. You wake slightly as someone shifts nearby, not fully opening your eyes, just enough to sense the space around you. The house itself feels like a companion, heavy and protective. Medieval homes were not designed for beauty in winter. They were designed for survival, and that made them unexpectedly good places to sleep. Thick walls of stone, packed earth, or timber filled with wattle and daub hold the cold at bay, not by eliminating it, but by slowing it down. The temperature changes gradually, giving your body time to adapt instead of shocking it awake. You notice how low the ceiling is. This is deliberate. Heat rises, and a low roof keeps warmth closer to where people sleep. Smoke from the hearth drifts upward and escapes through gaps or simple vents, leaving behind a faint woody smell that lingers in your hair and clothes. That smell becomes part of the sensory language of rest. Even centuries later, historians recognize that medieval domestic architecture created a stable microclimate, especially in winter. This is one mainstream historical fact that surprises modern readers. These houses, crude as they seem, were remarkably efficient at holding warmth without fuel waste. You run your hand along the wall. It is cold, but not icy. The wall feels alive, breathing slowly with the night air. There are no wide windows spilling heat into the dark. Openings are small, often shuttered tightly, sometimes covered with oiled cloth or thin horn instead of glass. Light is rationed. Darkness is welcomed. The absence of brightness does something subtle to your mind. Thoughts slow. Imagination softens. You do not scroll. You do not check. You simply exist. A quirky detail floats through your half-dreaming mind. In some medieval towns, people believed that houses slept just like humans. They spoke of walls needing rest after a long day of holding back the cold. This idea was not scientific, but it encouraged a shared respect for stillness at night. Doors stayed closed. Noise was frowned upon. You feel that culture now, pressing gently against your awareness. You settle deeper into the bedding, and the silence feels thick, not empty. There are no engines humming, no distant traffic sighing endlessly. The only sounds are natural and irregular. Wind touches the roof. Wood creaks as it contracts. Somewhere outside, a dog barks once, and then stops. This irregular soundscape lacks the predictability that keeps modern brains alert. Historians still argue whether this absence of constant background noise allowed medieval people to reach deeper stages of sleep more consistently, or whether it simply changed what they perceived as rest. The layout of the house reinforces this. Sleeping happens close to the center, near the hearth, near people, near animals. Space is shared, not out of romance, but practicality. Warmth gathers where bodies gather. Privacy, as you understand it, is a luxury of surplus energy. In winter, closeness is comfort. You feel it now as a steady warmth builds beneath layers of wool and shared breath. Your modern instincts might expect drafts, leaks, misery. Instead, you find stability. The cold stays outside, doing its work quietly. Inside, your body responds to darkness and mild chill by lowering its core temperature. Exactly what modern sleep specialists now recommend. Medieval people did not measure degrees, but they measured comfort with centuries of trial and error. You shift slightly and feel the packed earth or wooden floor beneath you. Rugs and rushes add insulation. In some regions, dried herbs were scattered on floors, releasing faint scents when crushed. Lavender, mint, or simply clean straw. These smells were not chosen for relaxation as we frame it today, but they created a familiar sensory environment. Familiarity is calming. Your brain recognizes safety. As you drift closer to sleep again, you realize that winter houses taught patience. Nothing changes quickly here. The cold does not rush. The night does not rush, and neither do you. This slow steadiness becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Sleep is not forced. It is invited, gently, by walls that know how to wait. You settle again as the fire shrinks to a quiet glow. No one rushes to feed it. This is intentional, almost ritual. In medieval winters, Letting the hearth burn down was part of the nightly rhythm. Fuel was precious, yes, but there was another reason too. People noticed that a cooling room made sleep come more easily. As the heat fades, the air grows denser, calmer. Your eyelids feel heavier, not from exhaustion alone, but from the gentle signal your body understands without words. Night has fully arrived. The embers pulse softly, orange fading to red, red fading to ash. Shadows soften instead of jumping. You hear the faint pop of cooling wood, a sound so small it barely registers, yet it anchors you in the moment. This slow dimming is nothing like clicking off a light switch. It is gradual, almost courteous, giving your senses time to slow down. Written household guides from later medieval centuries describe careful fire management at night, not just for safety, but because people believed sudden heat changes unsettled the body. They trusted gradual cooling. You lie still, breathing in air tinged with smoke and wool. The temperature drops a little more, not enough to make you shiver, just enough to remind you that warmth now comes from within and from those around you. Modern research echoes this old instinct. Cooler environments encourage deeper, more stable sleep. Medieval households did not run experiments, but they paid attention. Generation after generation noticed patterns. They remembered what worked. There is an old belief you might find curious. Some medieval medical writers warned that sleeping in overly warm rooms weakened the heart and clouded the mind. They thought heat caused excess moisture inside the body, leading to sluggishness and illness. While their explanations were rooted in humoral theory rather than biology, the practical outcome was simple. Do not overheat at night. Let the room breathe. You feel that wisdom now as your muscles loosen instead of tensing. You shift slightly, adjusting woolen coverings as the air cools. These coverings trap warmth close to your skin, creating a small pocket of comfort within a larger cool space. The contrast is soothing. Your breathing deepens. Outside, the wind moves along the walls but does not intrude. Inside, everything feels balanced. This balance is key. Medieval sleep thrived on moderation, not extremes. People often imagine medieval nights as dangerous, full of fear, yet winter nights inside were often calm. Darkness discouraged travel. Cold discouraged mischief. Once doors were barred and fires lowered, the world narrowed to this room and the people in it. Records from monasteries describe winter dormitories kept intentionally cool, with monks rising less often during the night than in warmer months. Cold encouraged stillness. You notice that no one stirs much now. Even those who coughed earlier have settled. The dying fire seems to signal a collective agreement. It is time. The room cools evenly, not sharply. Your skin senses the change, sending quiet signals inward. Sleep is no longer something you decide to do. It is something happening to you. There is some disagreement among modern historians about how comfortable these nights truly were. Some argue that cold rooms must have caused restless sleep, especially for the poor. Others point out that people adapted through clothing, shared bedding, and expectation. Comfort, after all, is partly cultural. What feels unbearable to one era may feel normal to another. As you lie here, wrapped and supported, misery does not match the stereotype. You become aware of how still the air feels. Without central heating pushing warmth around, without fans or vents, the air rests. Each breath feels deliberate. Your nose cools slightly with each inhale, a sensation many people today associate with sleeping well. You exhale warmth back into the shared space. This quiet exchange continues, steady and reassuring. The fire is almost gone now. Only a faint glow remains, just enough to remind you where you are if you open your eyes. No one will relight it until morning. Night belongs to darkness and cold. This acceptance is not resignation. It is trust. Trust that the house will hold. Trust that the body knows how to rest. As sleep deepens, you realize something subtle. The cold is not the enemy here. Sudden cold would be. Harsh cold would be. But this gentle winter chill, controlled and expected, becomes a partner in rest. It sharpens awareness briefly, then lets it go. It invites you inward. Your thoughts slow further. The day feels distant already, as if it happened in another season. The fire's absence makes space for dreams. And as you drift, wrapped in wool and quiet, you sense that this slow cooling is not a loss of comfort, but the doorway to it. You sink more fully into the bed beneath you, though calling it a bed by modern standards feels generous. There is no mattress as you know it, no springs or memory foam. Instead, your weight settles onto layers of straw, dried leaves, or hay, packed into a sturdy sack called a tick. It rustles softly when you move, a dry whispering sound that quickly fades into stillness. This was the standard sleeping surface for centuries, and surviving household records show that these fillings were regularly changed to stay clean and springy. It sounds primitive, but your body registers something unexpected: support. The surface is firm, yet forgiving. It does not swallow you. Your spine stays aligned. Your muscles do not strain. Many people today pay a great deal of money to recreate this kind of support without realizing how old the idea is. Medieval sleepers valued firmness because it kept the body warm through steady contact rather than sinking into cold pockets. You feel heat spread slowly, evenly, as straw compresses beneath you and holds its shape. Above you, rope lattices or wooden slats form the bed frame. Ropes, woven tightly and adjusted as needed, support the tick. This is where the phrase "sleep tight" comes from, a detail often mentioned in popular history but grounded in real practice. Tightening the ropes kept the bed level and prevented sagging. Bed maintenance was part of household routine, especially before winter, when good sleep mattered most. There is an odd but telling custom tied to these beds. In some regions, people believed that straw held memories of previous sleepers. Fresh straw was thought to bring fresh dreams. Whether or not anyone truly believed this literally, changing bedding before winter was common, suggesting an understanding that cleanliness and comfort affected rest long before germ theory existed. You pull the coverings closer. Blankets are heavy, often woolen, sometimes layered with fur. Linen sheets exist, but they are not the star of the show. Weight matters here. The pressure of layered coverings creates a sense of containment, not unlike what modern weighted blankets aim to achieve. You feel held in place, secure against shifting cold air. Your breathing slows almost immediately. Sleep manuals from the later medieval period describe beds as tools for balance. They warn against beds that are too soft, claiming they weaken the body, and against beds that are too hard, claiming they strain it. The ideal was somewhere in between. This balance shows up again and again in medieval thinking. Not excess, not deprivation, just enough. There is some disagreement among historians about how comfortable straw beds truly were for long-term use. Some argue they caused aches and attracted pests. Others point to regular replacement and winter cold reducing infestations. As you lie here, you notice no crawling, no itching. The cold itself discourages unwanted life. Winter quietly solves problems summer creates. You adjust once more, then stop moving. The bed responds by going still too. Unlike modern mattresses that bounce and echo movement, this surface absorbs it. Shared beds benefit from this. One person turning does not wake everyone else. In crowded households, this mattered. Sleep was precious, and minimizing disturbance was a form of courtesy. The smell of straw is faint but present, earthy and dry. It blends with wool and smoke into a scent that feels deeply human, tied to labor and survival. Smell is a powerful anchor for memory and calm. Your mind recognizes this blend as familiar, even if you have never known it before. As you relax further, you realize that medieval beds were not designed to impress. They were designed to work. In winter, effectiveness mattered more than luxury. And somehow, lying here now, you feel less distracted, less restless, than you often do in modern comfort. There is nothing to adjust, nothing to optimize. The bed does its job quietly. Your thoughts soften. The firmness beneath you becomes reassuring rather than noticeable. The weight above you keeps warmth in and worry out. This bed, simple as it is, carries you towards sleep not by indulgence, but by steadiness. And steadiness, it turns out, is deeply restful. You pull the coverings higher, not because the cold is sharp, but because layering feels right. Medieval sleep relied less on fine linens and more on smart accumulation. Wool blankets, cloaks, spare garments, sometimes even outer coats were folded and arranged for the night. Written household inventories from the period list bedding as some of the most valuable domestic items, often worth more than furniture. Warmth was portable, and people slept wrapped in what they owned. You notice that there are no crisp sheets separating skin from fabric. Nightclothes are simple and functional. Linen shifts, long wool tunics, hose left on in colder regions. Sleeping naked, common advice today, would have made little sense in an unheated world. Body heat needed help staying close. These layers trap warmth efficiently, creating small insulated spaces that move with you as you turn. There is a curious belief tied to night clothing. Some medieval writers warned that sleeping without proper garments left the body vulnerable to cold humours entering through the pores. While the explanation sounds strange now, the behaviour itself worked. Covered skin loses heat more slowly, and stable body temperature supports uninterrupted sleep. You feel that stability now, your skin neither chilled nor overheated. Shared blankets are common. You are not wrapped alone, even when not touching. Bodies beneath the same covering create a gentle warmth that spreads evenly. This shared heat was so important that some legal records mention disputes over blankets in winter, highlighting just how essential they were. Warmth at night was not a luxury. It was a right, fiercely protected within households. Modern scholars often point out that medieval people likely experienced fewer night sweats than we do today. Without overheated rooms and heavy synthetic bedding, the body could cool naturally while staying protected. There is debate about how often people woke during the night to adjust coverings, but evidence from letters and diaries suggests that winter sleep was often long and uninterrupted. You shift slightly, feeling the weight of wool settle again. Wool behaves differently from modern fabrics. It insulates even when damp, breathes without drafts, and molds gently to the body. There is a reason it dominated medieval textiles. The sensation is grounding, almost heavy in a comforting way. Your limbs feel anchored. There is another small detail worth noticing. Bedding was often aired during the day, even in winter, to remove dampness. People understood that moisture was the enemy of warmth. Dry layers slept warmer. This practical knowledge, passed through habit rather than theory, improved sleep quality in subtle ways. You can sense the dryness now, the lack of clammy chill. Some historians question whether sleeping fully clothed reduced comfort or freedom of movement. Others argue that clothing functioned like modern sleepwear, chosen specifically for rest. As you lie here, the fabric does not restrict you. It supports you, holding warmth where it belongs. Comfort, again, proves to be relative. You feel cocooned, not smothered. The cold remains at the edges, never intruding. Your breathing grows slower, deeper. Each exhale warms the shared space under the blankets, reinforcing the cycle. This is not individual comfort. It is collective adaptation. As the night stretches on, layers become invisible. You stop noticing where cloth ends and body begins. Warmth feels continuous. The world outside could freeze solid, and it would not matter. Inside this bundle of wool and quiet, sleep feels inevitable. The medieval solution to winter was not fighting the cold, but dressing wisely for it, even in dreams. You become more aware of the others around you as the night deepens. Not because they move, but because their presence shapes the warmth of the room. Medieval sleep was rarely solitary. Families, servants, apprentices, and sometimes travellers shared the same sleeping space. This was not always cozy in a sentimental way, but it was practical. Body heat was a shared resource, and winter demanded efficiency. Household records and court testimonies from the period show that sleeping arrangements followed warmth more than status once night fell. The hearth room filled first. Beds, pallets, and benches were arranged where heat lingered longest. Even animals were sometimes brought inside. A cow or goat tethered near the door added both warmth and a sense of security. You hear the slow, steady breathing of something large nearby and find it oddly reassuring. There was a belief, common in many regions, that sleeping alone weakened the spirit in winter. Companionship was thought to guard against night fears and wandering thoughts. While the explanation was emotional rather than scientific, the effect was real. Familiar sounds and shared space reduced anxiety, making it easier to fall and stay asleep. You notice how movement is minimal. People learn quickly how not to disturb one another. Turning happens slowly. Coughs are muffled. Even children settle into stillness after a while. In shared spaces, sleep becomes a cooperative act. Everyone benefits when everyone rests. This quiet coordination is something modern life rarely requires. There is ongoing discussion among historians about whether communal sleeping increased or reduced sleep quality. Some argue that noise and lack of privacy must have disrupted rest. Others point out that people accustomed to shared space adapt their expectations and thresholds. As you lie here, the low sounds do not jolt you awake. They blend into the background, becoming part of the night's texture. You sense warmth moving around you, not in waves, but in a steady presence. Heat pools where bodies gather. The coldest air stays near the floor and walls, far from where you sleep. Medieval people understood this intuitively. Beds were raised not just for storage or cleanliness, but to lift sleepers away from cold drafts. You feel that elevation now, slight but meaningful. There is a small, almost humorous detail preserved in some town records. Complaints were occasionally filed about bed space disputes during harsh winters. Who slept closest to the fire mattered. Warmth was negotiated. Sleep, like food, reflected social relationships. Even so, winter nights encouraged cooperation more than conflict. As the hours pass, you stop distinguishing individual sounds. Breathing merges into a slow rhythm. Someone mutters briefly in sleep, then goes quiet. An animal shifts and settles again. These noises do not demand attention. They signal normalcy. The brain relaxes when patterns feel familiar. You realize that privacy, as you define it, is not necessary for deep rest. Safety is. Warmth is. Predictability is. Medieval households provided these in abundance during winter nights. Darkness kept dangers at bay. Cold kept people indoors. Shared space kept watch without effort. Your body responds by sinking deeper into sleep. Muscles let go. The mind drifts. You are not guarding yourself against sudden interruption. There is nothing urgent waiting for you. Morning will come when it comes. As sleep thickens, you understand that communal rest was not a compromise. It was an adaptation. In winter, togetherness was not just social, it was biological. And wrapped in shared warmth and familiar sounds, you drift further, carried by the quiet agreement of everyone around you to rest. You wake without alarm, without urgency. Your eyes open into darkness so complete it feels soft rather than empty. No one has called out, no bell has rung, and yet you are awake, calmly, clearly. This is not insomnia. This is expected. Medieval winter nights were long, and sleep did not arrive in a single unbroken block. Instead, it came in waves. The first stretch of sleep settled soon after nightfall, deep and heavy. You have just risen out of it now. Your body feels rested, not groggy. Your mind is quiet but alert, floating somewhere between dreaming and thinking. This pattern was so common that medieval writings barely bothered to explain it. People spoke casually of first sleep and then later, second sleep, as if everyone naturally understood. Personal letters, devotional texts, even court records reference this pause in the night. Someone mentions waking after their first rest, to pray. Another describes visiting a neighbor briefly before returning to bed. This was not seen as a problem to solve. It was simply how winter nights unfolded when darkness lasted 14 hours or more. You sit up slightly, adjusting the blankets. Around you, others stir too. A few bodies shift. Someone coughs. Someone whispers a word or two, and then falls quiet again. The house does not fully wake. It breathes differently now, slower but aware. This shared wakefulness feels gentle, almost intimate, as if the night itself has lifted its eyelids. There is a belief found in several medieval cultures that this middle waking was the most honest hour. Minds were clear. Dreams still lingered close enough to influence thought. People trusted insights that came during this time. Some prayed, some reflected, some simply lay awake, letting thoughts wander without pressure. There was no clock watching, no worry about losing sleep. Modern researchers have tried recreating this pattern by removing artificial light from test subjects. After several weeks, many naturally fall into the same rhythm, sleeping in two segments, with a calm waking in between. Not everyone agrees on how universal this pattern was in the past, but the consistency of references across regions suggests it was widespread, especially in winter. You feel no anxiety about being awake. There is nothing tomorrow demanding early rising beyond what daylight allows. Work follows the sun, not the clock. Winter shortens days and lengthens nights, giving sleep more space. You lie back, eyes open, listening. The silence at this hour is different, deeper. Outside, even the wind seems to pause. Inside, the fire is long gone, leaving only the faint scent of ash. You can hear small sounds you would miss during the day. Fabric brushing skin, a log settling in the hearth, the quiet snort of an animal dreaming. Some historians wonder whether this segmented sleep offered mental benefits, allowing people time to process emotions and memories naturally. Others argue it was simply a response to long darkness and low stimulation. As you rest here, it feels less like a theory and more like a gift. Time without expectation, awareness without demand. You think briefly, then let the thoughts drift. There is no effort to force sleep back. You trust it will return. And it does, slowly, like a tide pulling back in after a pause. Your eyelids grow heavy again. The body recognizes the rhythm. Warmth returns as blankets settle and breathing deepens around you. One by one, the small sounds fade. The house slips back into stillness. This second descent into sleep feels different from the first. Lighter, dreamier. Dreams come more vividly now, shaped by thoughts from the waking pause. Medieval dream interpretation manuals often noted that dreams after the second sleep were especially meaningful. Whether or not that was true, people paid attention to them. You sink again, not rushing, not resisting. Winter has time, night has time, and you, held between cold walls and shared warmth, follow the ancient rhythm without effort, drifting gently into the second half of the night. You hover in that quiet middle of the night a little longer, aware but unhurried. This is the hour that belongs to no one and everyone at once. The house does not stir fully, yet it is not asleep either. You hear a soft murmur nearby, someone reciting a familiar prayer under their breath. Another person sits up briefly, adjusting a blanket, then lies back down. No one is surprised by wakefulness at this time. In many medieval households, this pause between sleeps was considered useful. People did small, gentle things. A woman might check on a child without lighting a candle. A man might step outside briefly to relieve himself, trusting the darkness to keep the world quiet. In monasteries, this hour often aligned with night offices, structured moments of prayer that fit naturally into the segmented night rather than interrupting it. A number of devotional manuals from the period mention this hour as ideal for reflection. The mind, rested but not fully engaged, was thought to be closer to the divine. Thoughts flowed more freely, worries felt smaller. Whether or not one believed in spiritual significance, the calm was real. You feel it now, a sense of spaciousness inside your chest. There is an odd little practice recorded in some regions. People believed that conversations held during this hour carried special honesty. Words spoken in the dark were thought less likely to deceive. While this belief cannot be proven, it hints at how people experienced this time. It was gentle, unguarded, unpressured. You remain still, listening. The sounds of the night are sparse but vivid. Somewhere far off, a church bell marks the hour, its tone softened by distance and cold air. The sound does not demand action, it simply acknowledges time passing. Inside, the room absorbs the echo and returns to quiet. Modern historians do not all agree on how active people were during this waking period. Some evidence suggests many simply lay awake. Other sources describe modest activity. The truth likely varied by household, season, and temperament. What remains consistent is the lack of stress around wakefulness. Being awake at night was not framed as failure. You notice how your body feels, warm, supported, alert but not tense. This state is difficult to achieve today, often chased through meditation or breathing exercises. Here, it arrives naturally, guided by darkness and cold. There is nothing to check, nothing to do. Gradually, the edges of thought soften. You stop forming sentences in your mind. Images drift through instead. The straw beneath you shifts slightly as someone nearby resettles, then goes still. The house exhales. This is the moment when second sleep begins to call you back. It is not abrupt. It arrives the way snow begins to fall, almost unnoticed at first. Your eyelids grow heavier. Breathing deepens without instruction. The mind loosens its grip. Medieval medical writers believed that returning to sleep at this point helped balance the body's humors after digestion. While the theory itself belongs to its time, the observation that sleep comes easily again rings true. You do not fight it. You turn slightly, finding a comfortable position by instinct. The blankets fall into place. The room feels settled again, as if everyone has silently agreed to continue. Outside, winter holds steady, keeping the world quiet and dark. As you drift back under, the waking hour fades without regret. It has done its work, whatever that work was. Now the night continues, long and generous, carrying you gently toward morning through the second, softer sleep. You slip fully back into sleep, and what greets you now is not silence exactly, but a different kind of quiet. The night is not empty of sound, it is simply free of constant noise. There is no steady hum, no mechanical breath filling every pause. Instead, sounds appear and disappear on their own terms. A beam contracts with a soft creak, wind brushes the roof and moves on. Somewhere outside, something small scurries, and then vanishes into stillness. This kind of soundscape shapes sleep in ways medieval people never analysed, but deeply experienced. Without engines or electricity, the night remained unpredictable but gentle. Your brain does not lock onto a repeating pattern that demands attention. Instead, it relaxes into uncertainty. Irregular sounds are easier to ignore than constant ones. You do not anticipate them, you simply accept them. Accounts from the period suggest that people often described winter nights as peaceful rather than frightening, especially indoors. Darkness kept trouble at bay. Cold, discouraged, wandering. The absence of noise created a sense of enclosure, like being wrapped not just in blankets, but in quiet itself. You feel that enclosure now. The house seems to absorb sound, softening everything before it reaches you. There is a small detail preserved in some medieval writings that feels almost modern. People complained occasionally about snoring, not as a joke, but as a real disturbance. Yet even these complaints are rare. It suggests that overall, nights were calmer, and disruptions stood out precisely because they were unusual. In a world without background noise, silence was the default. You notice how deeply your body settles when nothing competes for your attention. Your ears do not strain. Your mind does not scan for threats or alerts. This is a different kind of safety than locks or alarms. It is the safety of predictability. Winter nights repeat themselves. Dark, cold, quiet. Over time, the body learns there is nothing new to fear here. Some researchers today propose that constant low-level noise in modern life keeps the nervous system partially activated, even during sleep. Others are cautious about drawing direct comparisons. As you rest in this medieval quiet, the difference feels intuitive rather than theoretical. Your sleep deepens without effort. You become aware of your own breathing, slow and steady. Each inhale cools your nose slightly. Each exhale warms the shared space beneath the blankets. This rhythm is not drowned out by anything else. It becomes a lullaby of sorts, grounding you in your own body. Outside, the village lies still. No carts roll by. No distant music drifts through walls. Even animals know better than to waste energy in winter nights. Chickens roost, dogs curl up, horses stand quietly, conserving warmth. The entire landscape seems to agree that night is for rest. Inside, the room remains dim, even to your half-dreaming eyes. No stray light leaks in. Moonlight, if present, filters weakly through shutters and cracks, barely touching the floor. Darkness signals safety here. It means the day's work is finished. No one expects anything from you now. You drift deeper, and time becomes hard to measure. Without clocks, hours lose their edges. Sleep stretches and folds in on itself. Dreams come and go, but they do not pull you fully awake. They feel woven into the night rather than interrupting it. There is discussion among historians about whether medieval people slept more soundly than we do today. Some caution against romanticizing the past. Illness, hunger, and hardship certainly disrupted rest at times. Yet during stable winter nights, when food stores held and households were secure, sleep may have been more complete than what many experience now. You turn slightly, not waking, just adjusting. The bed absorbs the movement. The room stays quiet. No springs squeak. No devices light up. Nothing responds. This lack of reaction is calming in itself. The world does not push back when you move. As the night continues, the quiet becomes almost physical. It presses gently around you, filling gaps between thoughts. You do not feel isolated within it. You feel held. Quiet here is not absence. It is presence without demand. Your body sinks fully into rest. Muscles soften. The mind lets go of edges and details. Winter night does what it has always done best. It removes distraction, narrows the world, and invites sleep to deepen on its own terms. You breathe in slowly and notice how the air feels as it enters your nose. It is cool, clean, and slightly dry. not the sharp cold of outdoors, but a softened version, filtered by walls and bodies and wool. Medieval winter rooms rarely felt warm by modern standards, yet they were rarely stifling. The air moved gently, enough to stay fresh without creating drafts. This balance mattered more than people realized. Medical texts from the period often warned against sleeping in stale air. Writers advised opening doors or shutters briefly during the day, even in winter, to refresh indoor spaces. They believed old air carried illness. While their explanations relied on miasma rather than microbes, the practice reduced smoke buildup and dampness. Better air meant easier breathing at night. You feel that ease now, with every slow inhale. Cold air affects breathing differently than warm air. It encourages slower, deeper breaths. Your chest rises fully, then settles. The rhythm becomes steady, almost meditative. In modern sleep studies, cooler room temperatures are associated with fewer nighttime awakenings. Medieval people noticed the effect long before the science caught up. There is an unusual belief worth mentioning. Some medieval physicians claimed that cold night air sharpened the mind and strengthened the lungs, especially during winter. While exaggerated, the observation that cool air feels invigorating has some truth. You sense clarity rather than heaviness as you breathe. Your head feels clear. Sleep does not feel like sinking into fog. It feels like gliding. You shift slightly and notice that the air around your face stays consistent. No forced heating blasts warmth unevenly. No vents hum. The air rests where it is, warmed slowly by breath and body heat. This stability prevents the sudden temperature swings that can pull you out of sleep. The room remains quietly predictable. There is some debate among historians about how smoky medieval interiors truly were at night. While hearths produced smoke, most fires were allowed to burn down before sleep. Smoke rises and disperses when the fire is low. Combined with ventilation habits, nighttime air was often clearer than daytime air. As you lie here, you smell only a faint trace of ash, not enough to irritate. You notice how your breathing syncs with others around you. In shared spaces, rhythms align unconsciously. The collective pace slows. This synchronization may have contributed to calmer nights. It is difficult to stay restless when everyone around you breathes deeply and evenly. Outside, the cold air holds sound and scent close to the ground. Inside, it creates a gentle stillness. Your skin feels slightly cool where it meets the air, warmer where it meets wool. This contrast signals the body to relax further. Core temperature drops just enough to deepen sleep. Some modern researchers caution against assuming all cold improves sleep. Extreme cold certainly disrupts rest. Medieval people avoided that through layers, shared heat, and insulated spaces. The goal was never to endure discomfort. It was to avoid excess. Comfort lived in moderation. You exhale slowly and feel your body respond. Shoulders drop, jaw loosens. The cool air does not shock you awake. It cradles your senses. Breathing becomes something you no longer notice. It simply happens. As the night continues, air remains unchanged. No cycles of heating and cooling, no sudden dryness, just steady, breathable calm. Winter outside keeps insects and mold at bay. Inside, the air stays quiet and clean. Your mind drifts again, thoughts thinning out. Breath carries you downward, deeper into rest. Each inhale arrives cool and soft. Each exhale leaves warmth behind. The room breathes with you, and sleep follows naturally. You begin to sense the quiet work of digestion as sleep continues. Your body feels full but not heavy, satisfied rather than burdened. Medieval winter evenings usually ended with substantial meals. Daylight was short, labor was demanding, and food provided both fuel and warmth. Bread, porridge, stew, cheese, sometimes salted meat, filled the stomach before nightfall. This was not indulgence. It was preparation. Household accounts and monastic rules describe evening meals taken earlier in winter, often before darkness fully settled. Eating before night helped digestion complete during the first sleep, leaving the second sleep lighter and more restful. You feel that rhythm now. The body processes, then releases. There is a curious culinary belief tied to sleep from this period. Some writers warned against eating cold or watery foods before bed, claiming they chilled the body from within. Instead, warm, dense foods were favoured. While framed in humoral terms, the result was practical. Warm meals raise core temperature slightly, which then drops naturally during sleep, encouraging deeper rest. You shift and feel your stomach settle comfortably. No late-night snacking, no sugar spikes. Meals were predictable, repetitive, and satisfying. This regularity mattered. The body thrives on patterns, especially in winter when daylight cues are limited. Consistent meals reinforced the daily rhythm that guided sleep. Modern scholars sometimes question whether heavy medieval diets caused discomfort at night, yet evidence suggests people adapted portion sizes to activity levels. Winter labor, though slower outdoors, remained physically demanding indoors. Food matched effort. As you rest, there is no discomfort pulling you awake, just a steady warmth spreading through your core. You notice how food and sleep are closely linked here. Eating marks the transition from day to night. Once the meal is finished, the day is over. There is no second dinner, no midnight fridge visit. The body understands the message. It is time to rest. A lesser-known detail appears in some medieval health guides. They advised a short period of gentle movement after the evening meal. Not exercise, just slow walking or quiet chores. This helped digestion before lying down. You imagine the household tidying, checking doors, settling animals. These simple motions ease the body towards sleep, rather than jolting it. As digestion slows, your breathing deepens again. The warmth from food complements the cool air, creating balance. Neither overwhelms the other. This interplay supports steady sleep through the night. There is still discussion among historians about how widespread strict meal timing was across social classes. Wealthy households had more flexibility. Rural families followed daylight more closely, yet winter imposed limits on everyone. Darkness shortened choices. Regularity emerged naturally. You feel that regularity now as your body follows a familiar pattern. Eat, rest, sleep, wake, sleep again. There is comfort in predictability. No decisions remain. Your dreams drift in gently, not sharp or restless. Food nourishes not just the body, but the mind's sense of safety. Hunger is absent. Anxiety fades. Winter stores hold. Tonight, there is enough. As the night deepens, digestion completes its quiet work. The body no longer focuses inward. It lets go. Sleep grows lighter or deeper as needed, adjusting without intervention. Medieval winter nights were shaped by this careful balance of nourishment and rest. You turn slightly and settle again. The meal feels like a distant memory now, its warmth lingering just enough to support you. Outside, cold holds steady. Inside, the body rests fully fed and untroubled, drifting deeper into the long, patient night. Sometime during the night, you sense a faint warmth spreading that has nothing to do with blankets or bodies nearby. It comes from what you drank before sleep. Medieval evenings often ended with a small nightcap, though not in the modern sense of a strong spirit. Ale, weak beer, or diluted wine was common, especially in colder months. Water was not always trusted, and mild alcohol was safer and more predictable. You feel its gentle effect now, not intoxicating, just easing the edges of thought. Records from monasteries and town households show that ale was considered a food as much as a drink. It was low in alcohol, nourishing, and warming. Consumed in small amounts, it relaxed the body without dulling awareness. You are not foggy, you are calm. Muscles loosen. The mind softens its grip. Alongside ale, herbs played a quiet role in medieval sleep. Infusions of plants like chamomile, valerian, or fennel appear in medical texts and household notes. These were not marketed as sleep aids. They were simply known to soothe. A warm cup held in the hands before bed marked the transition from activity to rest. You can almost taste it now, earthy and faintly bitter. There is an unusual practice worth noting. In some regions, people placed herbs inside pillows or bedding, believing their scent encouraged peaceful dreams. Lavender and hops were popular choices. Whether or not the scent truly altered sleep, familiar smells likely signaled safety and comfort. You breathe in and feel the calm association settle. Not everyone agrees on how effective these herbal practices were. Some historians argue their impact was mostly psychological. Others point to the real sedative properties of certain plants. As you lie here, the distinction feels unimportant. The result is what matters. Your thoughts slow. The night feels kind. Alcohol use at night was carefully moderated. Excess drinking was discouraged before sleep, especially in winter. Medical writers warned that too much ale overheated the blood and caused restless nights. Balance was everything. You sense that moderation now. There is no spinning, No heaviness, just a gentle warmth that fades into rest. You notice how the body processes this warmth alongside the cool air. The contrast encourages relaxation. Blood flows evenly. Extremities stay warm under wool. The head remains clear. Sleep does not feel forced or artificial. It arrives naturally, supported rather than induced. Some modern sleep experts caution against alcohol before bed. They are not wrong. Strong spirits disrupt sleep cycles. Medieval drinks were different. Low alcohol content, slow sipping, and earlier timing changed the effect. Context mattered. Winter routines shaped how the body responded. As the night deepens, any lingering warmth from drink fades. There is no crash, no sudden waking. The body has already transitioned into deeper rest. Dreams continue gently, unbroken. You shift once more and feel completely at ease. The nightcap has done its work and stepped aside. The herbs have released their scent and gone quiet. Nothing remains but steady breathing and the slow passage of winter hours. Sleep here is not a product, it is a process. Small rituals stack quietly, each one guiding the body closer to rest. Drink, warmth, scent, darkness, cold, all working together without urgency. As your awareness drifts again, the last traces of taste and warmth dissolve. What remains is stillness, and in that stillness, sleep settles deeper, carried by habits refined over generations of winter nights. Your dreams take on a particular weight now, not heavy, but meaningful. Medieval people paid close attention to dreams, especially in winter, when nights were long and the mind had more room to wander. As you sleep, you sense images forming slowly, shaped by prayers murmured earlier, by worries set aside, by the quiet confidence that the household is secure for the night. Before sleep, many people recited familiar prayers, not hurried or dramatic, but habitual, like closing a door. These words were less about fear and more about order. Saying them marked the boundary between waking life and rest. You feel that boundary now. The day is sealed away. Whatever happens in dreams belongs to another realm. There was a widespread belief that winter dreams carried extra significance. The reasoning was simple. With fewer distractions and deeper sleep, the soul wandered more freely. Some people believed dreams offered guidance or warnings. Others treated them as reflections of bodily balance. Either way, dreams were not dismissed. They were listened to. You drift through images that feel vivid but calm. Faces appear and fade. Landscapes shift slowly. There is no rush. Medieval dream interpretation manuals often advised against waking suddenly from dreams, especially in cold months, claiming abrupt waking shocked the spirit. Instead, people were encouraged to let sleep run its course. You do exactly that. Fear also had a place in medieval night thinking, but winter reduced it. Darkness was familiar. Nights were long but predictable. Superstitions existed, of course. Stories of spirits or wandering souls circulated, yet households countered fear with routine. Prayers, shared sleep, barred doors. Fear lost its sharpness when met with structure. There is a small but striking detail found in some folklore. People believed that speaking aloud immediately after waking from a dream could trap its meaning. Silence preserved it. While modern minds may smile at this, silence upon waking can indeed help retain dream memory. As you stir briefly within sleep, you remain quiet, letting images drift on their own. Some historians suggest that the spiritual framing of dreams reduced nighttime anxiety. Dreams were not random or threatening. They were part of an ordered universe. Others argue this belief may have amplified fear when dreams turned dark. As you sleep now, the tone remains gentle. Winter supports depth, not drama. You notice that your dreams do not jolt you awake. They unfold and dissolve smoothly. The absence of sudden noise or light allows the mind to complete its cycles. This continuity matters. Dreams finish their sentences. Sleep stays whole. Your body remains still beneath layers of wool. Breathing is steady. The cold outside sharpens contrasts in the mind without disrupting rest. Dreams feel clear but not exhausting. They pass like slow-moving clouds. Faith, in this context, is not loud. It is woven into habit, crossing oneself, whispering a prayer, trusting the night. These actions reduce uncertainty. When the mind believes it is protected, it rests more deeply. You feel that trust now, not as belief, but as calm. As the night continues, Dreams soften. Images become abstract, more sensation than story. You float between thought and nothing. Medieval thinkers sometimes describe this as the soul resting as much as the body. Whether or not that was true, the effect was restorative. You turn slightly, still asleep. Blankets shift and settle. No one stirs. The household remains wrapped in quiet faith and shared warmth. Dreams loosen their hold, and sleep deepens again, carrying you onward through the long winter night. You sink into a deeper stretch of rest as the night presses on, and something subtle happens inside your body. The darkness outside is complete and unbroken, stretching for hours, and your body responds as it always has when light disappears for long periods. Hormones shift quietly, sleep deepens, wakefulness loses its edge. Medieval people did not know the word circadian, but they lived inside its rhythm every winter. Long winter nights meant extended exposure to darkness, and darkness told the body it was safe to rest. Without candles burning late or lamps left glowing, the night remained intact. Once the fire died down, the only light came from stars or moonlight slipping faintly through cracks. This mattered. The body released sleep hormones freely, unconfused by artificial brightness. You feel that clarity now. There is no internal tug-of-war between tiredness and stimulation. Writings from later centuries describe how people in northern regions slept far longer in winter than in summer. This was not laziness. It was adaptation. Short days, limited work, long nights encouraged rest. The body followed suit, extending sleep naturally. You are not oversleeping. You are sinking. There was an interesting observation made by early modern physicians looking back on medieval habits. They noted that winter sleepers often appeared calmer and less irritable than those forced to rise early in darkness. While their explanations varied, the pattern was clear. More darkness meant deeper rest. You sense that calm now, a steadiness that feels physical. Some researchers today argue that modern light exposure disrupts this ancient rhythm, shortening sleep and fragmenting it. Others caution against idealizing the past, pointing out that hunger and illness also shaped sleep patterns. Both can be true. As you lie here, fed and sheltered, darkness becomes a gift rather than a threat. You roll slightly and notice how easy it is to return to stillness. No light hits your eyes, no sudden glow signals morning too soon. The night remains trustworthy. The brain relaxes when it knows it will not be startled awake by false dawns. There is a small cultural detail tied to winter darkness. In some medieval communities, candles were deliberately saved for emergencies or rituals, not casual night use. Light was precious, darkness was normal. Children grew up unafraid of it. You feel that familiarity now. Dark is not emptiness, it is rest. Your dreams thin out as sleep deepens. This stage is less about images and more about restoration. Muscles repair, energy stores rebuild. The cold outside reinforces this inward focus. There is nowhere to go, nothing to see. The body turns its attention inward without resistance. Disagreement remains among historians about how uniform this experience was across regions. Southern winters were milder, nights shorter, yet even there, seasonal darkness shaped behavior more than modern schedules do. Winter slowed life everywhere, even if it did not freeze it. You breathe slowly, deeply. Time stretches. Hours pass without markers. Without clocks, sleep does not feel like a countdown. It feels like a wide field you move through at your own pace. As the night approaches its final stretch, darkness still holds. The body remains wrapped in chemical signals, telling it to stay down, stay still, stay safe. When morning eventually comes, it will arrive honestly, with light, not alarms. For now, winter darkness does its quiet work. It smooths rough edges. It deepens rest. It reminds the body of an old truth. When the world grows dark and cold, sleep is not something to fight. It is something to enter fully. You remain asleep, unaware of hours passing, because nothing inside you is counting them. There is no ticking clock, no glowing numbers silently demanding attention. Time exists only as sensation. Cool air, warm wool, steady breath. Medieval winter sleep unfolded without precision, guided by bodies rather than instruments. In this world, clocks were rare and often unreliable. Church bells marked communal time, not personal schedules. At night, bells fell silent. Once darkness settled, there was no reason to measure hours closely. People trusted their bodies to wake them when rest was complete. You feel that trust now. Sleep is not something you manage. It manages itself. Historical records show that many people rose with daylight or with familiar sounds, not alarms, roosters, footsteps. The gradual change in light behind shutters. Winter delayed these cues, and so waking came later. This flexibility mattered. It allowed the body to finish its work. Sleep was not cut short by obligation unless survival demanded it. There is a small but telling detail found in medieval legal cases. People were often described as asleep when incidents occurred at night, not because they were negligent, but because sleeping through darkness was expected. Wakefulness at night required a reason. Sleep was the default state. You sense that expectation now. There is no guilt in resting. You shift slightly and drift back into deeper stillness. Without clocks, the mind does not rehearse tomorrow. There is no sense of being late. Morning does not exist yet. The present is complete. This absence of anticipation reduces mental noise. Anxiety has nothing to attach itself to. Some modern historians suggest that constant time awareness increases stress and fragments sleep. Others argue that medieval life had its own pressures, just different ones. As you rest here, the lack of timekeeping feels freeing. The night stretches without edges. You notice how waking thoughts do not intrude. There is no mental checklist, no rehearsal of tasks. Work will happen when light allows it. Winter enforces patience. The body learns to wait. There is an interesting observation made by travelers from later centuries who encountered rural communities still living without strict schedules. They often remarked on how deeply people slept and how calmly they woke. This pattern echoes what you experience now. Rest completes itself before consciousness returns. You breathe slowly, unconcerned with how long you have been asleep or how long remains. The body does not need that information. It responds only to internal signals. When repair is finished, waking will come. As the night moves toward its final hours, sleep lightens slightly, then deepens again. Without time pressure, these fluctuations happen naturally. The body adjusts minute by minute, guided by need rather than plan. Winter supports this surrender. Darkness hides the world. Cold quiets it. There is nothing to respond to. You are allowed to disappear into sleep without apology. Eventually, far off, something shifts. Not enough to wake you, just a sense that the night is moving. Still, there is no rush, no reason to surface yet. Sleep remains the rightful place to be. Wrapped in wool and quiet, free from clocks and counting, you rest the way humans once did for countless winters. Not efficiently, not optimally, simply, completely. You remain deep in sleep, and something else quietly works in your favor during this winter night. The cold, not just as comfort, but as protection. Winter temperatures discouraged many of the small irritations that interrupt rest in warmer months. Insects slowed or vanished. Fleas, lice, and flies became far less active. The night belonged to stillness rather than scratching. Accounts from medieval households note seasonal differences in discomfort. Summer brought bites and buzzing. Winter brought relief. Cold floors and walls were a small price to pay for peaceful skin. You feel that peace now. Nothing crawls. Nothing tickles. Your body remains undisturbed. People understood this intuitively. Winter was the clean season. Bedding felt fresher. Air felt clearer. Even without knowing why, households appreciated how cold simplified life. Sleep improved when the body did not have to remain alert for tiny threats. There is a curious note in some medieval writings about winter being the best time to heal. Fewer pests meant wounds stayed cleaner. Less irritation meant deeper rest. Sleep and recovery went hand in hand. You sense that restorative quality now as your body sinks further into stillness. Some historians debate how widespread pests truly were in medieval homes, especially in colder regions. Evidence varies by place and wealth, yet most agree that winter reduced their presence significantly. Cold acted as a natural regulator. As you lie here, the absence is noticeable. You turn slightly and feel nothing but fabric and straw. No itching, no disturbance. The body does not brace itself unconsciously. Muscles remain relaxed. This absence of microstress allows sleep to remain uninterrupted. The cold also slows spoilage. Food stored nearby smells clean rather than sour. The air carries no sharp odors that might trigger waking. Everything feels stable, predictable. Winter reduces variables. You breathe slowly, undisturbed by discomfort. In modern life, many awakenings come not from danger, but from irritation. A sound, a bite, a temperature shift. Here, those triggers are fewer. The night remains intact. There is an interesting contrast noted by later observers. Summer nights required vigilance. Winter nights allowed surrender. The season itself stood guard. You feel guarded now, not by effort, but by environment. Sleep deepens further. Dreams fade. Awareness narrows to breath and warmth. The body repairs without interruption. This is rest without friction. As the hours continue, the cold remains steady. Nothing intrudes. The night does not test you. It supports you. Winter keeps its promise. Quiet, stillness, sleep. Your body rests deeply now, and beneath that stillness, quiet repair is underway. Medieval people believed strongly in the healing power of sleep, especially during winter. Cold months were when the body was thought to rebuild itself, conserving energy rather than spending it. Even without modern understanding, people observed that illness often eased when rest was protected and nights were long. Medical manuals from the period advised those who were sick to sleep as much as possible during winter, wrapped warmly and kept from drafts. Rest was considered a form of medicine. You feel that principle at work now. Muscles soften, breathing stays even, nothing strains or demands attention. The body uses this uninterrupted time to recover from wear that daylight labor brings. There is an intriguing belief recorded in several regions that winter sleep strengthened the body against future illness. People thought that enduring cold nights while staying well rested made one hardier when spring arrived. While the explanation relied on balance of bodily forces, the observation that rest supports immunity aligns closely with modern findings. You sense resilience building quietly as you sleep. You turn slightly and feel how easily you settle again. No stiffness, no ache pulling you toward wakefulness. Cold has numbed minor pains rather than aggravated them. Swelling reduces in cooler temperatures. Medieval people noticed this, favoring cool rooms for recovery rather than warm ones. Comfort came from steadiness, not heat. Some historians question whether winter illnesses actually increased due to cold exposure. Others point out that communal warmth, layered clothing, and long rest countered those risks. The truth likely varied by circumstance. As you lie here, sheltered and fed, winter feels like an ally rather than a threat. The household around you remains quiet. No one checks on the sick constantly. They trust sleep to do its work. This trust reduces anxiety, which itself supports healing. The body does not brace for interruption. It relaxes fully into repair. There is a small detail from monastic life that reflects this attitude. Infirmaries often allowed extra sleep during winter, delaying morning routines. Rest took priority over schedule. You feel that permission now. Nothing pulls you upward before your body is ready. Your breathing remains slow and deep. Oxygen moves efficiently. Muscles receive what they need. The mind stays calm, not replaying worries. Healing happens best in stillness, and winter provides it generously. As the night stretches on, sleep cycles complete without disruption. The body finishes what it starts. When wakefulness briefly brushes the surface, it retreats again easily. Nothing is unfinished. Wrapped in wool, held by cold walls and shared warmth, you rest the way medieval people trusted their bodies to rest. Winter does not rush you, it gives you time. And time, more than anything, is what healing requires. You sleep on, carried through the late hours of the night, and as rest continues, the world beyond the walls begins to matter again, quietly, indirectly. Winter does not feel the same everywhere, and medieval sleep shifted subtly, depending on where you were. Even now, in your half-dreaming state, the house around you reflects a particular climate, a particular latitude. Cold shapes habits differently across regions, yet the core logic remains the same. Darkness lengthens, life slows. Sleep expands. In northern lands, winters were harsher, and nights stretched even longer. In Scandinavia and parts of the British Isles, daylight could shrink to a brief window, barely enough to work by. Historical accounts describe people spending extraordinary amounts of time indoors during winter, conserving energy and heat. Sleep came earlier and lingered later. You can imagine how the body adapted, treating winter almost like a season-long night. Extended rest was not laziness. It was strategy. Farther south, in places like Italy or southern France, winters were milder, but the principles remained. Houses were still built to hold warmth. Fires still burned down at night. People still layered clothing and bedding. Even when cold was gentler, darkness still ruled. Without modern lighting, night defined the rhythm everywhere. You feel connected to all of it now, as if your sleep belongs to a much larger pattern. Travelers' writings from the medieval period often remark on these differences. Northern homes emphasized insulation and shared warmth. Southern homes focused more on blocking damp and wind. Yet in both, winter sleep was treated with care. Bedtime routines adjusted. Work slowed. The body was allowed to follow the season rather than resist it. There is an interesting regional variation related to sleeping positions. In colder northern areas, people often slept more tightly curled, conserving heat. In milder climates, positions were looser. This seems small, but it reflects how closely sleep responded to environment. Even posture adapted. As you lie here, your body finds its most efficient shape without instruction. Some medieval communities also adjusted sleeping hours more dramatically than others. In extreme latitudes, people sometimes slept in longer segments, with extended periods of rest that blurred the line between night and day. Modern scholars debate how widespread this was, but evidence suggests that winter pushed sleep beyond the patterns we now consider normal. You remain asleep as these patterns echo faintly through the walls. The house holds cold differently depending on its region, but the principle is the same. Keep the chill steady. Avoid extremes. Let the body settle. There is a small cultural detail tied to regional winters that speaks volumes. In some northern villages, winter was the preferred season for marriages and gatherings. With work slowed and nights long, people rested more during the day and stayed awake slightly longer in the evening for communal events. Sleep still came early, but it came after shared warmth and company. Winter reorganized social life around rest, rather than productivity. In contrast, southern regions sometimes treated winter as a recovery period. Fields rested, people slept longer, and repaired tools indoors. The night extended, and sleep followed. You sense this shared understanding now. Winter was not fought, it was used. As sleep deepens again, your dreams thin out, leaving behind a sense of floating. Geography fades, only sensation remains. Cool air, warm wool, slow breath. Yet beneath that simplicity lies a web of regional knowledge, passed down through generations. How to sleep when the world is cold. How to let the night do its work. Historians continue to discuss how much these regional differences mattered in daily life. Some argue that climate shaped everything, including temperament and health. Others suggest that social structures mattered more than weather alone. As you rest, the debate feels distant. What matters is that across regions, winter sleep was respected. You turn slightly and feel the bed respond. The straw shifts softly, the blankets hold, the walls remain solid. This house, wherever it is, has learned how to survive its winters. It has learned how to let people rest. The night moves closer to morning now, though you do not know it yet. In the north, dawn will come late and slow. In the south, a little sooner. Either way, sleep continues until light truly arrives. There is no false dawn, no artificial interruption. You breathe deeply, and the air remains calm. Winter keeps insects away. Cold keeps the world quiet. Regional differences fade in importance when the body rests. Sleep is universal. It adapts, but it always seeks the same thing: safety, warmth, time. As the final stretch of night unfolds, you remain wrapped in that universal pattern, a medieval sleeper among millions, across centuries and landscapes, all sharing the same basic truth. When winter comes and darkness deepens, sleep grows longer, deeper, and more forgiving. You drift onward, unaware of borders or maps, held instead by the simple knowledge that humans everywhere once trusted winter to teach them how to rest. You remain asleep, but the shape of the space around you begins to shift in subtle ways, as if the night itself is comparing lives. Not everyone in the medieval world slept the same way, yet winter flattened many differences. Whether you lay in a peasant hut or a royal chamber, cold demanded similar solutions. Sleep, at its core, became surprisingly equal. In a noble household, the bed was larger, elevated, draped with heavy curtains. Feathers filled the mattress instead of straw. Linen sheets were finer, yet even here, winter rules applied. Fires still burned down at night. Rooms were kept cool. Thick hangings served not only decoration, but insulation. The goal was the same as yours now. Keep warmth in. Keep cold, steady. Let sleep do its work. In humbler homes, beds were simpler, sometimes nothing more than pallets near the hearth. Straw ticks, wool blankets, cloaks folded just right. No curtains, no canopy. Yet the body underneath did not know the difference. It responded to darkness, to cold air, to shared warmth in much the same way. Sleep depth did not depend on status. Court records and household accounts show that even kings complained of poor sleep when rooms were too warm or drafty. Comfort came from balance, not luxury. This challenges modern assumptions. More possessions did not guarantee better rest. Winter demanded respect from everyone. There is a curious detail found in royal inventories. Beds were often moved seasonally. In winter, sleeping chambers shifted closer to interior walls or hearths. Location mattered more than ornament. Nobles adapted their spaces just as peasants adapted their habits. Cold equalized priorities. You lie still, unaware of rank or title. The night does not care who you are. It responds only to bodies and breath. This is one of winter's quiet powers. It strips life down to essentials: warmth, shelter, rest. Some historians argue that inequality was never truly absent. Even at night, nobles enjoyed privacy and cleaner bedding. Others point out that deep sleep depends more on environment and routine than on luxury. As you rest here, wrapped and undisturbed, it is hard to imagine sleeping more deeply, simply because fabric is finer. In grand chambers, servants often slept nearby, sometimes on pallets at the foot of the bed. Shared warmth extended even into elite spaces. Privacy was limited everywhere. Winter encouraged proximity over separation. You feel that closeness now as part of safety rather than intrusion. There is an odd practice recorded in some noble households. During especially cold winters, multiple beds were pushed together to create shared warmth. Rank dissolved temporarily. Survival mattered more. This kind of adaptation rarely appears in romantic depictions of medieval life, yet it speaks clearly about priorities. In peasant homes, sleep arrangements were already communal. Winter simply intensified that closeness. Children, elders, and adults shared space. Heat gathered where bodies gathered. The night felt full rather than empty. You sense that fullness now, the quiet presence of others shaping the air. You turn slightly, and the bed absorbs the movement. Whether straw or feathers, the effect is the same. Stillness returns quickly. Sleep continues uninterrupted. Winter sleep does not reward excess. It rewards stability. As the night deepens, social differences blur further. No one is working. No one is commanding or obeying. Everyone rests. In the dark, hierarchy softens. Breath sounds the same. Sleep looks the same. There is discussion among historians about whether winter sleep offered rare moments of equality in medieval life. Some caution against overstating it. Power dynamics remained. Others note that shared vulnerability to cold created moments of genuine common ground. As you lie here, the idea feels less abstract. Winter humbles everyone. The cold outside presses against every wall equally. It does not choose targets. Inside, walls hold steady. Beds hold bodies. Sleep holds minds. This shared experience ties together lives that otherwise rarely touched. You drift deeper, unaware of silk or straw, crown or cap. The night wraps everyone in the same darkness. Winter reminds the body of what matters: warmth, safety, rest. As sleep continues, you feel detached from identity altogether. You are not rich or poor. You are not important or obscure. You are simply human, resting through a long, cold night, exactly as millions once did. Morning will return differences soon enough. But for now, winter has done its quiet work. It has leveled the night, and in doing so, it has allowed sleep to become something shared, steady, and deeply human. You drift onward through the night, and as sleep lightens and deepens in slow waves, you sense different bodies around you responding to winter in their own ways. Age matters here, not in status or authority, but in rhythm. Children, elders, and adults do not sleep the same, yet winter draws their patterns closer together, smoothing sharp differences. Children sleep deeply in winter. Their bodies give in completely to darkness and cold, especially after days spent burning energy indoors. Medieval parents noticed this. Letters and household guides mention children sleeping longer during cold months, waking later, needing less coaxing to rest. You feel that deep heaviness now, the kind that belongs to growing bodies repairing themselves without effort. Children often slept closest to adults, tucked between parents or near older siblings. Warmth and protection mattered more than independence. Winter nights were not a time to enforce separation. They were a time to keep the vulnerable close. You sense that instinctive closeness now, not crowded, but connected. Elders slept differently, lighter perhaps, waking more easily. Cold, stiffened joints and slowed movement. Medieval communities adapted to this quietly. Older family members were given the warmest spots, closer to the hearth, or layered with extra coverings. Respect showed itself in practical care rather than words. There is a small detail found in parish records and household accounts. Elders were often allowed to remain in bed longer during winter mornings, even when others rose to tend animals or chores. Rest was understood as necessity, not indulgence. You feel that permission now, the sense that staying still is allowed. Adults in the middle years balanced both ends. Their sleep was shaped by responsibility, yet winter softened demands. Work slowed, fields rested, nights stretched. Even those responsible for households or labor found more time to rest. Winter forced a recalibration. Survival depended on conserving strength. Some historians debate how well medieval families cared for elders and children during winter. Evidence varies widely by region and wealth, yet the consistent theme is adaptation. Cold-made, neglect costly. A sick child or weakened elder threatened the household. Sleep became a form of protection. You shift slightly, and the bed creaks softly. Someone older nearby exhales and settles again. A child stirs briefly, then sinks back into sleep without fully waking. These movements feel coordinated, almost choreographed by familiarity. Shared sleep teaches bodies to adjust to one another. There is an interesting observation from later medical writers who studied rural winter habits. They noted that intergenerational households often slept more soundly than fragmented ones. Familiar rhythms reduced disturbance. The presence of multiple ages created a balanced soundscape. No single noise dominated. You notice how care continues even in sleep. A blanket is adjusted without waking. A body shifts closer to share warmth. These actions are automatic, learned through repetition. Winter nights trained people to look after one another without words. Children dream heavily, their breathing irregular and deep. Elders dream lightly, closer to waking. Adults move between the two, yet all are held by the same darkness. Winter creates a shared container where differences coexist peacefully. Modern readers sometimes imagine medieval life as harsh, especially for the young and old. Hardship certainly existed, yet winter sleep reveals another side. Protection through closeness, rest through routine, care expressed through placement and warmth. As you rest here, age feels less like division and more like variation. Everyone belongs, everyone is accommodated. Sleep adjusts itself around needs rather than enforcing uniformity. The night stretches on, generous enough to hold everyone. No one is rushed awake. Morning will arrive slowly. Children will rise when light invites them. Elders will rise when warmth returns. Adults will rise when duty calls. Winter allows these differences without conflict. You breathe deeply and feel the household remain steady. No one is neglected. No one is pushed beyond comfort. Sleep flows where it needs to, adapting to bodies shaped by time. As the hours pass, you sense the quiet success of this arrangement. Everyone rests enough to endure the cold. Everyone wakes with strength preserved. Winter has taught the household how to sleep together across generations. Wrapped in wool and darkness, you drift on, held by a night that understands difference and makes space for it. You remain asleep as the night grows thinner, and sound becomes the only guide to where you are. Medieval winter nights had their own soundscape, one that shaped sleep as surely as cold and darkness. There are no sudden noises here, no mechanical interruptions. Instead, sound arrives gently, layered, and meaningful. Wind moves first. It slides along the roof, presses briefly against shutters, then moves on. It does not howl continuously. It tests the house, then leaves it alone. The structure responds with a soft creak, wood adjusting to temperature, stone settling under weight. These sounds are familiar. They signal that the house is doing what it is meant to do. You do not wake for them. You recognize them as safe. Farther off, there is the occasional sound of an animal, a horse shifting in its stall, a dog turning in its sleep. These noises are low and rounded, not sharp. They do not trigger alarm. Animals sleep when people sleep in winter. The cold conserves energy across species. The entire environment agrees on rest. Inside the room, the quiet is not total. Fabric brushes skin. Someone sighs. Another breathes a little louder for a moment, then settles. These sounds form a rhythm, uneven but comforting. The brain relaxes when it hears life continuing calmly nearby. Silence broken by gentle human noise reassures rather than disturbs. There is an interesting note in some medieval descriptions of night. People often mentioned how loud daytime seemed in contrast. Night was praised for its softness. This suggests that the absence of constant background noise was felt deeply. Quiet was not emptiness, it was relief. You notice that no sound repeats endlessly. There is no hum that the mind tries to track. Each noise appears, completes itself, and disappears. This allows sleep to continue uninterrupted. The brain does not stay alert waiting for the next occurrence. It lets go. Bells, when they sound at night, do so rarely. A distant church bell marking an hour drifts through the cold air and fades before it demands attention. It is not an alarm, it is a reminder that time exists, but not that you must act. Winter bells spoke to communities, not individuals. Some historians suggest that this sound environment supported deeper sleep stages. Without constant noise, the brain could cycle more fully. Others caution that occasional loud sounds, storms or animals might have startled sleepers. Both happened, yet the overall pattern favored calm. You hear the wind again, softer now. It carries the scent of cold earth and distant snow. Sound and smell blend, reinforcing the sense of season. Winter announces itself quietly. The body responds by staying still. Inside, the hearth is long silent. No crackle remains. This absence is important. Fire sounds might invite wakefulness. They're quiet signals that nothing more is expected from the night. You are allowed to continue sleeping. There is a small detail recorded in some medieval towns. Night watchmen were instructed to move slowly and announce themselves softly to avoid waking households. Protecting sleep was part of maintaining order. Rested people were healthier and calmer. Winter amplified this priority. You shift slightly, and the bed absorbs the sound. Straw rustles briefly, then stops. Wool settles. Nothing echoes. Rooms were small, surfaces soft. Sound did not bounce endlessly. This dampening effect mattered. Noise ended quickly. As the night continues, you notice how your own movements feel muted. Even turning over seems quieter here. The environment encourages gentleness. You move less, because you need to move less. Comfort holds you in place. Some modern observers note that constant noise can keep the nervous system partially engaged, even during sleep. Medieval winter nights offered the opposite. Long stretches of near silence allowed the body to fully disengage. You feel that disengagement now. Muscles loosen further, thoughts thin. The soundscape remains stable. Nothing new intrudes. This predictability deepens trust. The brain stops scanning. It accepts the night as safe. As the hours pass, sound becomes almost irrelevant. Sleep deepens beyond the reach of hearing. Yet even there, the quiet continues to protect you. No sudden crash or shout pulls you upward. Winter keeps the night gentle. Eventually, the faintest change begins. Not sound, exactly, but the sense that stillness is shifting. It does not wake you yet. It simply marks the approach of morning, somewhere far away. For now, the medieval night remains intact. Quiet surrounds you like another blanket, thick and steady. Sound has done its work, not by stimulating, but by reassuring. And held within that reassurance, you sleep on. You sleep through the deepest part of the night, and somewhere beyond your awareness, the memory of travel lingers. Winter journeys were exhausting in ways modern movement rarely is. Cold drained strength quickly. Roads turned hard or treacherous. Daylight shortened every margin for error. When people finally reached shelter in winter, sleep came fast and deep, shaped by sheer physical depletion. Medieval accounts of travel describe how quickly fatigue settled into the bones during cold months. Walking through snow or frozen mud demanded constant effort. Riding chilled the body even faster. By the time travelers reached an inn or household willing to offer shelter, their bodies were already surrendering. Sleep followed almost immediately. Once, warmth and stillness arrived. You feel echoes of that exhaustion now, even if you did not travel today. Winter itself creates a background tiredness. Muscles work harder to stay warm. The body burns energy just to exist. By nightfall, rest feels earned rather than optional. You sink deeper into sleep because your body truly needs it. Inns and way stations understood this well. Records show that winter travelers were often given priority access to fires and bedding. Hosts knew that rest was not just kindness, it was survival. A poorly rested traveler was a liability the next day. Sleep repaired what cold had taken. There is a striking detail found in some medieval travel narratives. Writers often remark that they slept better on the road in winter than at home in summer. This seems counterintuitive until you consider the conditions. Long days of physical effort followed by cold and darkness left no room for restless thought. Sleep arrived like a closing door. You turn slightly in bed, unaware that this same principle shapes your rest now. The body, having spent energy throughout the day, simply staying warm, accepts sleep without resistance. There is no surplus energy left to turn into anxiety. Some historians debate how often medieval people travelled in winter at all. Many avoided it when possible, yet necessity forced movement. Trade, messages, pilgrimages continued. Those who travelled learned to respect winter sleep deeply. It was their primary recovery tool. You feel that respect now. Sleep is not something you squeeze in. It is something you fall into completely. The body wastes no effort resisting it. Cold also simplified travel fatigue. Without long evenings of activity, travellers rested earlier. Once inside, night claimed them fully. There was no temptation to stay up late. Darkness removed choice. Rest became the only reasonable response. There is an interesting contrast noted by later observers. Summer travel often ended with poor sleep due to heat, insects, and lingering daylight. Winter travel ended with silence, cold, and deep rest. The season itself improved sleep quality once shelter was secured. You breathe slowly, deeply. Muscles remain heavy and relaxed. The sensation resembles the sleep that follows a long hike or physical labor. Thoughts do not circle, they dissolve. Even those who did not travel experienced a similar effect in winter. Daily tasks required more effort. Carrying water, gathering wood, maintaining animals. Everything demanded more from the body. By night, fatigue was honest. Sleep responded accordingly. You sense no restlessness now, no urge to move or adjust. The bed holds you easily. The cold outside reinforces stillness. There is nowhere to go. Tomorrow will bring effort again, but not yet. Some scholars argue that modern sedentary life removes this physical foundation for sleep, replacing it with mental fatigue that does not resolve as cleanly. Others caution against idealizing physical hardship. Both perspectives carry truth. Yet here, in this moment, physical tiredness supports complete rest. You drift further down, the edges of awareness smoothing out. Sleep feels thick and continuous. Dreams fade. The body enters its most restorative state. The night continues, and winter keeps its grip outside. Roads remain empty. Travelers remain indoors. The world pauses. Inside, sleep holds steady. It does not fracture. It does not thin. It simply deepens, carrying you through the last heavy hours of night. When morning eventually arrives, those who travelled will wake sore but restored. Those who stayed home will wake with strength preserved. Winter sleep, shaped by effort and cold, has done its work. For now, none of that matters. The body remains wrapped in rest, earned through living in a cold world. You remain asleep, heavy and calm, carried by the same deep fatigue that once followed every winter journey. You sleep on as the night begins its slow turning, and somewhere beneath your rest, ideas about sleep itself quietly surface. Medieval people did not analyze their nights the way we do now, yet modern historians have spent decades trying to understand exactly how well people slept back then. As you lie here, wrapped in cold and wool, you inhabit the very questions scholars still turn over. Some researchers argue that medieval sleep was deeper and more natural than ours. They point to long winter nights, limited artificial light, physical labor, and strong daily rhythms. In this view, sleep followed biology rather than schedules. The body rested when darkness came and woke when light returned. You feel the logic of this argument now. Nothing has interrupted you. Nothing has rushed you. Sleep has unfolded on its own terms. Others are more cautious. They note that medieval life included hardship that could disturb rest. Hunger, illness, cold snaps, and anxiety were real. Not every night was peaceful. Sleep quality likely varied greatly, depending on circumstance. Yet even these scholars acknowledge that when conditions were stable, winter nights offered long, uninterrupted rest that many modern people rarely experience. There is debate about segmented sleep as well. Some historians believe first and second sleep were nearly universal in pre-industrial societies. Others argue the evidence reflects a common pattern, but not an absolute one. As you move gently between deeper and lighter sleep now, the distinction feels natural rather than forced. Whether labelled or not, the night allows flexibility. You turn slightly and settle again, unaware of how closely your experience aligns with this academic conversation. The body does not need theory to rest. It responds to environment, darkness, cold, quiet. These conditions shape sleep regardless of interpretation. Another point of discussion concerns comfort. Modern assumptions often paint medieval sleep as miserable. Hard beds, cold rooms, shared spaces. Yet many historians now argue that comfort is culturally defined. What feels uncomfortable to one era may feel normal or even soothing to another. As you lie here, supported and warm enough, discomfort does not dominate. The environment feels consistent and predictable, which matters more than softness. There is also disagreement about how much sleep people actually got. Some estimates suggest winter nights allowed for 10 or even 12 hours of rest, including waking periods. Others argue that practical demands shortened this. The truth likely sits between. What seems clear is that winter created more opportunity for rest than summer. Darkness, limited work, cold discouraged unnecessary movement. Sleep expanded into the space left behind. You breathe slowly, deeply, and feel the night continuing without urgency. This absence of urgency may be the most significant difference. Modern sleep is often squeezed between obligations. Medieval winter sleep was protected by circumstance. The night itself enforced boundaries. Some scholars focus on the role of community. Shared sleep spaces, they argue, reduced anxiety and promoted a sense of safety that supported deeper rest. Others counter that lack of privacy could increase disturbance. As you rest now, surrounded by familiar presence and steady sound, safety feels more prominent than irritation. Another question concerns mental health. Did medieval winter sleep reduce stress? Or did worries simply take different forms? Records suggest that while life was challenging, winter offered a kind of psychological shelter. Long nights slowed thought. Darkness reduced stimulation. Sleep acted as a buffer against constant concern. You feel that buffering now. Thoughts do not spiral. They drift and dissolve. There is also the matter of expectation. Medieval people did not expect perfect sleep. Waking at night was normal. Light sleep at times was accepted. This acceptance itself may have improved rest. Modern frustration with imperfect sleep can make it worse. Here, there is no frustration. Whatever happens is fine. You sense the night thinning very slightly, though sleep still holds. This gradual shift mirrors the slow pace of medieval mornings. No sudden alarm will demand alertness. Light will arrive honestly. The body will respond when ready. Historians still differ on many details, but there is growing agreement on one point. Medieval winter sleep followed the environment closely. It was seasonal, flexible, and deeply integrated into daily life. As you rest here, that integration feels complete. Sleep is not separate from living. It is part of it. You turn again, gently. The bed responds. The room remains quiet. Nothing changes abruptly. This steadiness supports the final stretch of night. Academic arguments fade into the background as sleep deepens once more. The body does not care how its rest will be interpreted centuries later. It rests because it can. Winter continues to hold the world still. Darkness remains generous. Sleep remains uninterrupted. Whatever historians conclude, this moment speaks for itself. Cold, quiet nights allowed humans to rest fully when conditions aligned. You drift onward, carried by the same forces scholars still try to describe. Not theory, experience. rest unfolding naturally in a winter night that asks nothing more of you. You continue sleeping as the night edges closer to morning, and somewhere beneath your rest, comparison begins quietly forming, not in thought, but in feeling. This sleep feels different from what you know in the modern world. There is no struggle here, no effort to optimize or fix it. It simply exists, shaped by conditions that modern life has slowly peeled away. In your own time, sleep is often managed. Lights are adjusted, temperatures are calibrated, devices promise better rest through tracking and reminders. Medieval winter sleep required none of this. It relied on alignment rather than control. Darkness arrived early, cold settled in, activity slowed, sleep expanded naturally into the space left behind. You feel the difference most clearly in the absence of interruption. No sudden glow slices through darkness. No vibration pulls the mind upward. The night remains whole. Modern sleep is often fractured by signals that have nothing to do with survival. Here, only genuine needs break rest. Hunger, cold, danger. Tonight, none of those apply. Artificial light has reshaped how nights feel. Even a small lamp extends evening, pushes sleep later, confuses the body's signals. Medieval people rarely fought the night this way. Candles were expensive, firelight faded, darkness was accepted. You sense how deeply that acceptance mattered. The body was never asked to stay awake when it wanted to rest. Modern homes are sealed and heated to consistency. Temperatures remain nearly identical day and night. Medieval homes changed slowly with the hours. Cooling rooms signaled bedtime, warming light signaled morning. These gradual shifts guided sleep gently rather than forcing it. You feel that gentleness now. Nothing snaps you awake or pushes you down. Noise has changed too. Modern nights hum, even when they are quiet. Electricity, traffic, distant machines create a constant background presence. Medieval winter nights lacked that hum. Silence was not engineered. It was the default. The nervous system responded by disengaging fully. You sense that disengagement now. Muscles let go. Breath deepens. Vigilance fades. There is also the matter of expectation. Today, many people expect sleep to be perfect and continuous. When it is not, frustration sets in. Medieval sleepers accepted variation. Waking at night was normal. Light sleep was not failure. This acceptance reduced anxiety, which itself improves rest. You feel no judgment about how you are sleeping. Whatever happens is fine. Modern schedules compress sleep into narrow windows. Work, entertainment, and obligations stretch late into night. Medieval winter life did the opposite. Darkness shortened options. Cold discouraged lingering. Sleep was given room to breathe. You feel that spaciousness now. The night is not something to conquer. It is something to move through slowly. There is debate about whether modern comforts truly improve sleep. Soft mattresses, warm rooms, complete privacy. These can help, but they can also isolate the sleeper from natural cues. Medieval sleep remained connected to environment. Cold, darkness, sound, and social presence work together. As you rest here, that integration feels complete. You turn slightly and notice how easily sleep returns. There is no clock counting hours, no worry about how rested you will feel. The body trusts the process. This trust may be what modern sleep struggles to recover. Some modern thinkers suggest that the loss of seasonal rhythm has disrupted sleep deeply. Artificial light erases winter darkness. Climate control erases cold. The body never receives the full signal to slow down. Medieval winter delivered that signal clearly. You feel slowed in the best way. Thoughts stretch out. Time softens. You sense the coming of morning faintly now, not through light, but through a subtle shift in air and sound. Yet even this does not demand wakefulness. Dawn will arrive honestly, with light strong enough to mean something. Until then, sleep remains uninterrupted. Modern mornings often begin abruptly. Alarms cut through dreams. Lights flip on. Attention is demanded instantly. Medieval mornings eased in slowly. Light crept through shutters. Sounds returned gradually. The body woke when ready. You remain asleep now because there is no reason not to be. As the night thins, you notice how rested you feel, even without waking. The body has had time to complete its cycles. Nothing has been rushed. This completeness is rare in modern life, where sleep is often shortened or fragmented. There is a quiet realization forming beneath your rest. Medieval people did not necessarily have better lives, but in winter, they often had better nights, not because they tried harder, but because the world around them allowed it. You breathe deeply, one more time, and sleep settles again. Morning is coming, but it is not yet here. For now, the night still belongs to rest. Cold still holds the world quiet. Darkness still protects sleep. As you drift through these final moments of night, you carry with you the sense that something important has been lost and could be remembered, not by returning to hardship, but by honoring rhythm, darkness, cold, stillness, acceptance. Sleep continues, gentle and unforced, right up until the edge of dawn. You remain asleep as the very last portion of night unfolds, and this final stretch feels different from all the others. It is softer, thinner, as if sleep itself knows it will soon loosen its hold. Winter has carried you through hours of darkness, cold and quiet, and now it begins to release you gently rather than abruptly. Somewhere beyond the walls, the world prepares to return. Not loudly, not all at once. The cold still holds, but it shifts slightly. Air feels a touch less dense. Sound begins to reorganize itself. A distant animal steers. Wood settles one last time as temperatures change almost imperceptibly. These are not alarms, they are invitations. Medieval people understood this transition well. Morning did not begin when someone decided it should. It began when light made work possible again. Until then, sleep was respected. You feel that respect now. No one rushes you awake. No task pulls at your thoughts. The night has not been stolen from you. It has been allowed to finish. As sleep lightens, you drift in and out of awareness without resistance. Dreams fade without drama. Thoughts form slowly, then dissolve again. The body stretches subtly, preparing without command. This gradual waking protected the mind. Sudden transitions were avoided when possible. Winter mornings were cold and unforgiving. Rising too quickly invited stiffness and shock. Household routines reflected this understanding. Fires were rebuilt slowly. Movement started gently. Children were allowed to linger. Elders were not rushed. The day warmed itself into being. You feel that pace now, still wrapped in blankets, still held by darkness that has not fully lifted. There is a small but telling detail in medieval morning habits. People often lingered in bed after waking, not out of laziness, but to let the body adjust. Cold nights made sudden movement uncomfortable. This pause protected joints and breath. It also preserved calm. You experience that pause now, half awake, half resting. You sense light growing faintly behind shutters or cracks. Not enough to illuminate the room, just enough to signal change. The body responds by waking gradually. Hormones shift. Breath becomes slightly quicker. Awareness returns without urgency. Some historians note that this gentle transition may have reduced morning stress. Modern mornings often begin with demands. Medieval mornings began with awareness. You feel no pressure to act. The day will wait until the light insists. As you stretch slightly, blankets slide but do not fall away. Warmth remains. The cold outside is acknowledged, but not yet faced. This boundary between night and day feels protective. Winter does not throw you into the morning. It hands you over slowly. The lessons of the night settle quietly. Sleep came deeply because it was allowed to. Cold helped rather than hindered. Darkness guided rather than frightened. Community supported rather than distracted. Nothing had to be optimized or improved. The environment did the work. You become more awake now, though you remain still. The room is quiet but no longer asleep. Breathing around you shifts. Someone nearby sighs and stirs. Another person stretches. The household wakes together, loosely coordinated by light rather than command. Winter mornings carried their own calm. Work would come, but not yet. First came warmth, a rebuilt fire, perhaps a simple meal. The body was not expected to leap from sleep to labor. You feel grateful for that expectation as you lie here, letting wakefulness arrive fully before movement. As awareness sharpens, the memory of the night lingers. Long sleep, gentle waking, no interruption, no anxiety about rest. The body feels restored rather than depleted. This is what winter offered medieval people when conditions were right. Not ease, but balance. You sit with that balance for a moment longer, still under covers, still within the shelter of the night. The cold outside remains real, but you are ready for it now. Sleep has done its work thoroughly. Light continues to strengthen. The day approaches honestly. When you finally open your eyes fully, it will be because you are ready. not because something forced you to. Winter releases you at its own pace, and you carry its lesson with you. Sleep does not need to be conquered. Sometimes, it only needs to be given time. The morning never fully arrives here. Instead, the story softens and slows, just as your breathing does now. You feel the weight of the blankets, the quiet memory of cold walls, the steady calm that followed you through the night. Nothing remains to be done. Nothing needs explaining. The medieval world fades gently, leaving behind only its rhythm, darkness, stillness, rest. You do not need to remember every detail. Your body understands what mattered. Cold that did not harm, quiet that did not demand, sleep that was allowed to be long and imperfect and whole. As your thoughts loosen, the images blur into warmth and shadow. Straw and wool dissolve into comfort. Firelight fades into darkness once more. The night stretches out again, even if the day has already begun somewhere else. Your breathing slows. Shoulders sink. Jaw softens. There is no rush to wake fully. You can remain here, hovering, resting, letting the calm carry you a little longer. If sleep returns, let it. If wakefulness lingers, let that be gentle too. The night has given you what it could. The rest is yours to keep. Stay still. Stay warm. Stay untroubled. Sweet dreams.